You see us? You can see us from there.
Yes.
We are. Marlis Bauman up there is Alice's great aunt with her great uncle, Uncle Connor, and there they are. And they fit in because she's Swedish and he's Norwegian. So they wanted to come and hear what Alice had to say. So welcome, Alice.
Yeah. Okay, so hi allesammans. I'm here in Svalbard right now. I decided I would start outside so I could give you a little show of the nature and everything around. This is just the start of my third week. It will be tomorrow here at Svalbard Folkehøgskole. It's been a really great week. Here, while I'm talking, I can turn it around and give you a little show of the nature. I can walk around the building. So just a few days ago.
It's 9:30 at night there. It doesn't look like night.
Yeah, we just, I think about a week ago, had our first sunset, and that was at about 1:20 in the morning. And now it's setting about 9:40-ish. So I don't know if you can see the sunset over there. I don't know if I can zoom in.
Beautiful.
Yeah, there's really pretty mountains over there. But just a few days ago, we were as a school up there on that mountain. There are a few pictures of that were on the slideshow. So I'll give you a little walk around the school, I suppose. Right there is the downtown. There is a store and all sorts of good things.
In Svalbard?
There are, I believe, about 3,000 people in Svalbard. And I am the 27th American here. I just changed my address a few days ago. So I am officially a resident of Svalbard.
Which means you go through the resident line in the grocery store, right?
Yes, there's a different resident line in the grocery store that has self-checkouts. There is staff checkouts for tourists that they have as well. But I can use the resident checkout without guilt now because I may have been using it before I had official residence here.
So you're what number was of the Americans? Are you
I am the 27th American living here.
27th American, okay.
Yes, not of all time, but as of right now, there are 27 Americans living here.
Okay.
And let's see, I am in the expeditionslinje in the Svalbard Folkehøgskole. There are, I can't remember how many lines there are, but it's different. Oh, and here's a little view of the inside. That's our kitchen, our eating area we have in there. I don't know if you can see, I could take you inside as well later. But so there are a lot of different lines, different subjects you can choose. So I'm an expedition, which means that we go out on expeditions. We learn about living outside. We learn about living in the Arctic. So we've been preparing. We're going on a camping trip to a glacier, a little bit north of Svalbard. So we've been preparing for that. We've been practicing. I'm sure there are some pictures of us using the ropes that you might have seen on the slideshow. And so it's been really fun, really great people in my class. You can see some houses over there. And let's see, what else? Actually, next week, we are going to be going on a boat. The whole school is going to be going on a boat called the Nordstjerne. And that's going up to the very top of Svalbard, directly on the 80th parallel. And there we'll be picking up trash. The boat is it's really interesting. It'll be its last voyage in Svalbard because of some regulations with the lifeboat. But it's a historical boat. It was built in 1956. And it's a museum as well as a boat. So that's a really, really cool experience that we get to have as a school. We get to experience that and experience the nature of Svalbard going up to the north of Spitsbergen, the island that we're on.
So this is a Hurtigruten boat that is no longer going to be used because it doesn't fit the current safety requirements.
Yes.
But you're going to be taking it up and collecting trash, and the trash gets to Spitsbergen just because the currents bring it there, right?
Yes, so there's all sorts of trash from all over the world that they pick up every single year. So that's a trip that the school does every year. We have team assigned to pick up trash, and of course polar bear guards as well in that team. That is one thing that we have to think about. What?
Wait, go back and show the polar bear guard.
What?
Go back and show the polar bear guard.
There will be a polar bear guard.
Oh.
Yes. So we have teams assigned to pick up trash, and polar bear guards assigned to the team as well. That is one thing we have to think about in Svalbard. anytime we are outside of the town, here's the outside of the school, by the way. It's our main entrance, and my room is up there. Anytime we go outside of the town, you've seen pictures of some pretty mountains over there. I'm sure you've seen pictures of me, or maybe just the sign in general, that says "Känner hela Svalbard," which means it goes for whole Svalbard. And there's a picture of a polar bear, but it's because there are polar bears outside of the town of Svalbard. So there's a designated safe zone that we're in the town. But anytime you go out of that, you have to have a weapon with you, a rifle. So we have all school rifle shooting training. And anytime we go out, we loan a rifle from the school.
Did you do training on the rifles? Have you done that already?
Yes, we have already done that. We have to apply for my rifle license. I'm going to go inside. A taxidermy polar bear
Oh dear.
in the school.
With a baby polar bear.
Yes. And here
Just keep
is
your mouth kind of close to the speaker, because sometimes you're really clear and then sometimes your voice kind of drops off.
Okay.
So what is
Well,
this
in
that
there,
we're looking at here?
this in here is the community kind of area. So there's ping pong, there's couches. In there is the kitchen. There's Lucas Lefsa, our cafe. We have our
But no
auditorium in
students.
here.
Is it a
Oh, there are
ghost?
there is some students in there, but we're all packing for our trip tomorrow.
Okay.
So I need to pack too. I've been procrastinating. But
Not
and then in
Alice.
here is our auditorium, and we have every morning an all school meeting where we get kind of told the news for the day. We hear the news from the Norwegian news broadcasting, and then we hear what we're doing today. We hear what we need to prepare. We also sing a song together as well. There's a song every morning, which I really like because it's personally very good for me to learn Norwegian by singing a lot of songs, and we do sing a lot. We have every Wednesday, I sung, which is where we get together as a whole school and we just sing songs for 30 minutes. We have like a suggestion box that can be in English and Norwegian. We have Danish and Swedish students as well. So there's about 10% of the school is international. So I'm the only American, but there are 2 British students and I believe 4 Danish students and 2 Swedish students. So that's been really fun getting to know everybody. And actually for the international students, they have, this is our little shoe area where we keep all of our shoes, and we have to wear inside shoes inside. So very Midwestern, like home. Yes. And so actually for the international students, we have different committees that we've signed up for. I'm trying to be quiet not to disturb anybody walking up the stairs. But we have different committees that we've signed up for that do different things. So there's some that help out with actually the this Folkehøgskole is run by the Norwegian YMCA, KFF, and so they do outreach work. One committee does outreach work with the YMCA, just solidarity work and things like that. They have like wellness groups as well. I don't know if anybody's in here.
What committee did you sign up for?
Oh, yeah. But I'm getting to that.
Sorry.
Sorry. So I'm gonna head back into, this is the 3rd floor, and this is our room side. It's, as you can see, a work in progress.
Oh, das ist Kunst.
Ja, das ist Kunst. They are Kunst. But I'm gonna sit down. We have so the committee that I have signed up for, well, I've signed up for 2. I've signed up for the faith committee, which is where we have, so the school is a Christian school because it's part of the YMCA. The YMCA in the US is very secular. It's only kind of Christian in name. In Norway, does have a strong connection with the Church of Norway. And just like being Christian, so the connection is stronger there. So we have, it's not, of course, it's sort of like going to a Catholic school in the US. Not all the students are Christian, but we have opportunities we have like a Bible group that we have every Tuesday and every Monday, pardon me, that all the students are welcome to join. We all go as a school to the church. We have a really active church in town. And it's also kind of a community center where students aren't required to go, but we all go together, those who do. I sing in the choir, which meets in the church. But so I'm part of the faith committee, which is one of the committees I'm in. And we have the Bible group. The faith committee aims at like taking all the different students from all different faiths in the school, just kind of having discussions about that and like philosophical discussions about faith and things like that. But then the other committee I'm part of, which is what I was getting to all this time, is called Språkcafé, and it's for students who have Norwegian as a second language. And so every Sunday we get together either at the cafe in the school, or we go out to a different cafe in the town. There's a Husky cafe, which is really kind of aimed at tourists. But they have Huskies at the cafe and they have very good coffee. So we might go out to the Husky cafe or a different cafe in town, and we just speak in Norwegian in a place where like it's meant to be learning Norwegian. So that's really, really helpful for me. We have, of course, two Brits who speak up at the same level of Norwegian as me. Well, one speaks more. Her mother is from Norway. But the other one is about the same level as me. We have Swedish and Danish people who can understand Norwegian, but are learning to speak it better. So it's a really great thing. Everybody here is so welcoming of all these different international people and helping us learn. So it's been a really great experience. And so it's just a really nice thing to have the different committees and the Språkcafé committee. So I was just at that actually. What else should I say?
Somebody has a question.
Yeah, it's
Oh, yes.
about the folk high school or the folk college tradition. What's the typical like age range of students? How do people pick which one they want to go to? That kind of thing.
Yeah. So actually the age range was something I was very surprised because I was expecting it to be, college, just all college age students, 18 to 22. And that is the majority of the students, but there is such a diversity in age range. It's anybody can be at any age, can go to a Folkehøgskole. So we have students from 18 to, I believe, 37 is our oldest student. And so anybody in any stage of their life can come to a Folkehøgskole. And how they choose it, there's one broad kind of like website for Folkehøgskole. But then within that you pick a different school and the application is done through the school itself. So people just research what they want to do, and everybody here at Svalbard wanted to go to Svalbard. They all thought kind of the same way as me. Svalbard seems like a really, really cool place to go. Yeah, it's really nice because we all have something in common here, that we wanted to be on Svalbard. We have sort of the sense of adventure in us, but there's so many people from so many different walks of life, and it's really, really good to get to know everybody here. What else? Are there any other questions or anything else I should speak on?
One of the things that I noticed in the pictures that I'm sure people noticed subliminally, but that was something that was missing. There were no trees.
Yeah, there are no trees here. Well, there is by one of the hotels, there are imported trees that are very dead. So it's a kind of like brown, really sad forest. But they are not planted trees, they are not alive. But there are no trees on Svalbard because it's 78 Longyearbyen is 78 degrees north. So where we live is about 80 degrees north. It's in the middle of the Arctic. And we have flowers, we have clovers, we have grass, but no trees, no bigger plants that Svalbard can really support. So that's been something that has been taken a little getting used to, but it definitely doesn't detract from the beauty of the nature here on Svalbard. We've gone, I'm sure you've seen on plenty of hikes around Svalbard up to the top of the mountains. And we'll be going out on glaciers soon, out on the boat to see the sea. And we were on a reindeer hunt in Bjørndalen, which is a valley near the town. We shot 2 reindeer. We had for dinner last night, and for dinner this night as well, we had a reindeer stew. And I had reindeer before, but not in a very long time, so it was really fun to taste that again. It tasted, it was good. It was very, very good. The food here we have is actually really incredible, which is not, I've heard, not typical for all Folkehøgskole. But the food here we have really, really great cooks, and the most kind of hardcore cooks you'll find at most of the schools, because they all have stories about polar bear encounters, and they all have, you know, been Arctic guys and live the Arctic, and they go out hunting all the time. So it's it really, they're a very active part of the school, and active in all the times we go outside of the school in the wilderness. So the cooks are really great, and they make incredible food, and they have really, really good stories, and really they're all very active, and, you know, making us safe as well.
You mentioned food. How many meals a day do you eat? Do you get 3 square meals like we
yes.
here?
So we have in Norway, it's for basically all of Norway, it's a cultural thing. We have our first meal is frokost, breakfast. And for that we have grøt, porridge, or then we have like bread where we can put, you know, butter and jam or meat and cheese or something on a open-faced bread. So sort of like American breakfast, not too different. Then most times we will pack a lunch, because most of the time we'll be outside of the school doing something outside during lunchtime. Sometimes we'll have a felles lunch, together lunch, and there will be food served there. But most of the times we'll pack a lunch, so I'll pack 1 or 2 sandwiches that just have meat and cheese and things in them. And lunches at the same time as we have it here, about 12:30ish. Then we will have middag, which is the dinner, and that is usually at about 4 o'clock. And that's our main meal of the day. So that's where we had, like, for example, reindeer stew, or we have taco nights like once a week, which is really fun. But it's all very good food, but that is like the big main meal of the day. And after that, at about 8 o'clock, we have kveldsmat, which is another lighter meal with like bread and either I've become a very big fan of brunost. I'm sure you all are familiar with brunost. And so I love having bread and brunost and a little bit of jam. But just an open-faced sandwich with some light things on it. So we have 4 meals a day. And that's a very typical thing for all of Norway, which I was not aware of, but I like it. I like having more food.
You just said something that, I was going to ask you what Norwegian tacos are like compared to the tacos we get in the US.
Honestly, very similar to kind of your typical Midwestern taco night. I mean, they're definitely not, you know, the most authentic Mexican tacos, but we'll have, you know, it's like a tortilla. I think it's very funny. They call tortillas lefse, which is not what I think of when I think of lefse, but tortilla is just lefse in Norwegian.
Because I've heard that Norway is the 2nd largest market for Old El Paso next to the US.
We have
blend that's a little bit lighter.
We have a Mexican restaurant in Svalbard. It's in our Kulturhus, the culture house. And last night, actually, we had a nightclub set up in the Kulturhus. So I was at the nightclub last night. We had a DJ come all the way from Sweden. And so that was part of our, like, the Longyearbyen Pride Festival. And they have that actually in August September instead of June when they normally have it. That was a whole celebration with the town, but they have a Mexican restaurant in there as well. I didn't have any food from it yet, but I was planning on trying some during the Høstferien, the fall break. Because they have Mexican food, they have sushi, they have Italian food. So I'm very excited to try all the different foods in Svalbard, because there's so many different people from different cultures here.
You've discovered a snack that you really love that we don't have in the US.
Oh yes,
Can you show us the package?
I ate. It's in the trash can. I can go get it out.
And while she's going to get that, I looked up the school, and the different tracks or lines that they have is Expedition Svalbard, which she is in. She was waitlisted for the dog sledding track. They also have one that's outdoor life. They have one that's focused on climate research, one that's focused on technology and innovation, nature photography, and art. So those are the different areas of concentration. There's about 10-ish students per line, is that correct?
Yeah, about that. We have 60 students in total. Well, actually 61 now. One student just came late. Because you could apply, I think, up to 2 months in. Their applications are still open for this year.
Okay. So what's this?
Yes, I have become a very, very big fan of licorice. Lakritz. in Norway, because obviously we don't have much of that in the US, but it's all over in Norway. This was the bag I had today. I unfortunately threw out a while ago. The bag I had of licorice flavored dates, salted licorice flavored dates. Oh,
She said it was delicious.
I'm just on a Zoom right now. So are you staying? Nay? Okay.
Is that your
Hi there.
roommate?
Ja, det var roomkameraten min, Matea. It was my roommate, Matea. And
She could wave
she's
at
very
us.
nice. Well, she just left. But so I've become very fan of licorice, and also licorice flavored dates is, I don't think, a very widespread snack in Norway, but it is something that they have at the co-op here in Svalbard, and it's very good. I've become a very big fan of it. But I do think I will be missing licorice a lot when I come back to the US because there's a lot of it here, and I have become a very big fan. So I ate all this entire bag in about like a week. But it's one of my favorite snacks to take with me when I just like need a little snack when I'm out on a hike. I'll take a little bag with me.
Yeah, you mentioned tourists a couple of times. Are there very many tourists there?
Yes, yeah. So it's kind of starting to become, the tourism is dying down now because we do have, it's not the polar sun anymore, the polar day. When it becomes the polar night, tourism starts up again. But because we have sunsets now, it's kind of like the lull season. We do definitely have a lot of tourists still. There's quite a few hotels on Svalbard. There's a Radisson Blue on Svalbard, which I thought was very funny. It definitely does not look like the Radisson Blue you would usually picture. But that was something that caught me by surprise. There's tourists from all over the place. There are American tourists, there's tourists from the mainland of Norway, Russian tourists. There's lots of Russian tourists, which is not something you see in the rest of the world that we usually travel in. And lots of tourists from China as well. So it's always interesting to see where people come from.
Well, I sent you that article about China's focus on the Arctic. That was probably right.
Yeah.
And I have read that the Russian tourists are kind of focusing on, they're pitching it as a Soviet nostalgia type site.
Yes, there is actually in right next, it's across the fjord from the glacier that we'll be going to the week after next is Pyramiden. We won't be going there, but that's the Russian, it's an abandoned Russian settlement on Svalbard in Spitsbergen. So there's helicopters and boats that go up, boats when the water isn't frozen, and helicopters that go up there during the winter time. That tourists, it's mostly Russian tourists now because of the war. Norwegian tourism don't really want to have anything to do with Russia, obviously, so they don't really go up there, but Russian tourist companies go up to Pyramiden a lot, and there's a big tourism industry up there. So there's hotels up there, but I don't think anybody permanently lives there.
Okay.
But it has the northernmost, yeah.
It was Russian miners that settled there originally.
Yes,
wasn't
and there is the northernmost statue of Lenin there, I also know.
Everything is the northernmost there, kind of
Yeah,
like.
yeah, we have the northernmost Kmart, the northernmost auto dealership. There is one car dealership, and it is a Toyota dealership.
What's the shopping like on Svalbard?
The shopping's very good. We have a decent sized grocery store, kind of like it's not really an American supermarket, but I mean, we have like a home section, we have plenty of food. It's you know, it's a well-stocked grocery store, not kind of, maybe not one you'd find like in the size of a city the size of Kalamazoo, but like a smaller size city, it would be, you know, a well-stocked great grocery store. There's lots of different, obviously, equipment stores where you can find different equipment and winter stuff. I bought this sweater the other day. It's a nice wool sweater with Svalbard on it because I thought that was a nice souvenir and it was very warm. To zip up, and I needed that. But there are also stores that you can get just normal clothes at. There is the Lumpen-senteret, which has a center with lots of stores in it. So they're outdoor stores, but also just clothing stores. We have a pharmacy. Yeah, it's also right next to the post office and the tax office as well. So it's really, I mean, it's not, you know, it's remote, but it's definitely like a normal functioning town. We have everything you need to live here.
And they have a free exchange store too, where on honor system you can just bring.
Yes, they have a store that is only for residents of Svalbard, or students as well. because we do have a university here, the University Center, and they are partners with the University of Tromsø. And so there's probably about 500 students at a time, maybe a little bit less, that are up here doing mostly scientific research. So we have actually a master's student that will be coming with us on the trip that we're going on up to the north of Spitsbergen. And he's going to be studying whether you can detect trash in water, like with a drone camera, so that we can see the patterns in where trash will be coming. So that's part of his master's project. So that'll be really interesting to see, because it'll be very practical for us as well, because he can tell us if it does work as he thought it would in theory. He can tell us, no, there's not going to be any trash here. Let's go 500 meters up and there might be trash. So that'll be really, really interesting to see. And so there's students all over Svalbard doing really, really interesting things. But what was I saying? Oh, yes, the store. It's called the Brukteken, or the used butikken, is in Norwegian is store. Brukt is used, so Brukteken, the used store, but all one word. It's very cute. Is a store that you can go to, and you can either drop off used items. There's a section for books, children's toys, kitchen items. There's lots of clothes there as well. You can drop off those used items you don't want anymore, or you can come in if you're a resident or a student, and you can just take whatever you want. And it's an honor system that you're not just going to take, you'll also give things back when you have things to give back. So they don't like keep a tally or anything, but it's a very well stocked store. So it's very clear that everybody kind of follows the honor system. And I have been there once. I got I can find it. We had hold on.
I see a calendar with a polar bear behind you, or something with a polar bear on the wall.
That's not a calendar. They gave out free polar bear safety signs. So I can take mine off the wall actually.
You're making me nervous, Alice.
So this says, it attacks without warning, hold your distance. And it basically just has information on how to stay safe from polar bears. The side is in Norwegian, the side is in English. And they handed those out at the school just because they were fun to have. So I'm gonna go pick this back up really quick.
Not your normal school supply, school spirit. But you also, I'm thinking about that master student. I have two thoughts that go in two different directions. You went by the seed vault the other day.
Yes, I didn't take any pictures of it, unfortunately, but
I don't know if everybody knows what the seed vault is. Can you explain that?
Yes. So on Svalbard, we have the Global Seed Vault, which is a place where countries have given their seeds from all their native plants. And in case of a worldwide disaster, where a plant has been wiped out, they can, because Svalbard is so remote, and because of the permafrost, things don't really decompose. Which is why you can find, really old bones. And I'll talk about that in a minute, because that's also something interesting.
Okay, that was the next thing I was going to ask about.
Yes. So the seed vault is, and I always kind of thought it was like right in the remote, like right in the middle of Spitsbergen, but it's not. It's right outside of Longyearbyen, right by the airport, and you can see it as we were driving past. And yeah, I've hiked over. I've seen it on a hike. You can walk over there. I haven't walked to it yet, but I've definitely seen it on a hike. Don't have any pictures of it, unfortunately, but I have actually heard that some countries in the Middle East, because of like either war or climate change, have taken a few seeds out because they've had plants that have died out and they've needed to resow those seeds. So that's something that, it's becoming practical now, which is really unfortunate and really sad, but it is something that is good to have. We know now. But they have a rule. I'm not sure. I believe this goes for all of Norway, but definitely in Svalbard. They have cultural memory is what they call it. And so anything from before 1946, because I believe that was when the Germans invaded Svalbard, you cannot touch. You can touch it, but you can't like pick it up or remove it. So you'll find planks of wood or bones or things like that, hammers, nails that are just laying around on Svalbard that you can't remove. Because that's cultural memory. It's from before 1946. So there are, in some places, not near the city, across the shore from the city, there are human bones that can't be removed because the permafrost pushes everything that's in it up. So when you're buried, you the bones get pushed up. And there are actually there are people who are still buried on Svalbard. You can apply to have a special exception, and there's a special way that they bury you so that you won't come up out of the ground. I'm not really sure how that works. So we do have a graveyard in Svalbard. The last person to be buried here, I believe, was in 2009. So you can specially apply to be buried if you've like lived here your entire life and done something really special for the town. But yeah, so that's something really interesting. You'll just see pieces of history lying around on the ground, which is really, really cool to see.
Oh.
Alice, do you have a library or a theater?
Yes, we do. We have both. So we have the Svalbard which is a community area, and there's a big theater. We actually just saw we had an author come. We had the Svalbard Literature Week, so we went and watched an author speak about a book. He was a Danish author about a book called Kalak, which is a book about a man who went to Greenland. It was like his experiences in Greenland. It was a fiction story, but so we watched him speak about his book in the theater, and then we watched it was a movie made in 2023, so we watched the movie Kalak as well. That was really interesting. And in the Folkehøgskole, we have right next to the Mexican restaurant, we have the bibliothek as well, the library. So I haven't been to the library yet, but I plan on going. So I'm sure it's really nice. And there are also used books for free, of course, in the Broktiken as well. So it's a really thriving community. It's really nice.
Is there a big hospital there?
We do have a sykehus. It's right in the middle of town, but there are 2 beds. So try not to get sick.
And isn't there a law that you can't be born or die on Svalbard?
Yes. Yeah. Well, you can. I mean, you can die, but you can't be buried here unless, of course, as I said, you get like a very special permit to do so, and that's not really very common. As I said, the last person to be buried here was in 2009. But you can't be born as well. You have to go down to the hospital in Tromsø. And so you can't give birth on Svalbard just because there's not, in case something goes wrong, the hospital doesn't really have the facilities to deal with that as safely as they could. So that is, yeah, it's a strange law, but yeah.
I took a peek at your weather forecast, and this week coming up on Tuesday, it's not going to rise above freezing all day long.
Mm-hmm.
And
but
you'll be up far north.
Yeah, so it will probably already have snow where I'm going the next week, because there has been the last 2 days snow on the mountaintops. When I've woken up, it melted. There's still a little bit I can see, but for the most part, it's melted. Now it melts by the end of the day. But so when we go farther up north, there will probably already be snow on the ground on sea level. So yeah.
And when does the sun go down for good?
For good, I think sometime in early November. So we have a few more weeks of sunshine. So I'm enjoying them while I can.
We showed the photos that you had sent ahead of time so that people could look at them and picture where you were. And if they had questions, like some of them have come, Gail, our president, is not here with us today. But she looked at the photos and she sent a couple of questions. One of them we already answered. She wanted to know about the home countries of the students. She says, how was the kayaking? What's the water temperature like? And there were a few photos with bare midriffs. Was that because the temperature was moderate or because the students there are just plain tough?
So the first one, the kayaking, was really, really fun. We kayaked to I can't remember the name of it. But a point just a little bit further out in the ocean, just right next to the airport. So we kayaked around there. We had our lunch. We kayaked back. And now I can apply to get my wet card, which means that I can go kayaking. I can rent a kayak from the school. And I haven't gotten it yet. I haven't applied yet. I need to do that. But I can go kayaking now, like in the Høstferien. I can go out and like kayak across the fjord, or kayak somewhere else, and like we can take our lunch and come back. So that'll be really nice. They have special waterproof bags for rifles, because if you do kayak across the fjord, it's outside of the polar bear safe zone, so you need to kayak with your rifle with you. But the kayaking was really, really great. It was really fun to do. The water temperature, we have gone swimming a few times. There probably may have been a few photos in there of going swimming, but that's something we love to do. We head out to the beach and take a little dip in the water. It's very cold. It's probably about freezing. It's salt water, so it hasn't frozen over yet. There's no ice in the water, but it's probably a little bit above freezing. So very refreshing. We have a sauna in Svalbard too, so it's right next to the lake, so you can go in the sauna and run out and jump in and head back in the sauna. That's very fun. And what was the last question?
She wanted to know the pictures with the bare midriffs. Was it because it was moderate air temperature, or are you guys just tough?
Well, that was because I had just hiked up a mountain. So it was probably about freezing up there because it was the top of a mountain. But I was very warm because I had just hiked up a mountain. So I was also, my shirt was very sweaty, so I was letting it dry out a bit before I put it back on and ate my lunch. So.
And the mountain looks really steep. I have heard that in the winter, people will hike up the mountain and then sit down and slide down the mountain.
So not that specific mountain, but we do have a ski slope that you can hike up to the top of the ski slope and slide down, or you can ski down. So that is something that people do. They hike up and just slide down without any skis or sled. They just kind of slide down. So I'm looking forward to that. That'll be very fun.
Gail also wants to know, in one of the photos of the sunset, there was a tall ship. Is that used for fishing or for something else?
I'm not entirely sure. It was a sailing ship, and it had plenty of sails, which is really interesting. There are so many cool ships that come into the port here because there's people who are coming from all over the world who are sailing to Svalbard, because who wouldn't want to say I've sailed to Svalbard? So that's especially fun when we've been going out kayaking. We sail through the port a lot to get out to where we're going, and we get to say hi to all the sailors. So that was a sailing ship, I'm not sure what you call that type of ship. A ship with sails. So that was powered by the wind. That was really cool to see, and I thought it was a very good photo. I'm not sure where it was from though.
What are your plans? You have fall break starting at the beginning of October. What are your plans?
Well, by that time I'll have my wet card and I'll have my license to rent out rifles. So just planning on exploring the city and then going outside the city on day trips. It's difficult to go on overnight trips with smaller groups because you need to have somebody awake for polar bear watch, and I don't want to be awake for 5 hours at a time on polar bear watch because that would not be very fun. So just going on day trips is my plan for the fall break, and exploring the town, eating at all the different restaurants, seeing what there is to do there.
So polar bears not only don't hibernate, they also don't sleep through the night. So you are constantly in danger is what you're telling your mother.
Well, I'm saying that we have a bunch of safety measures, so I'm not constantly in danger.
There's a question here.
I wondered, how often is there a polar bear attack? I mean, is that on a daily basis in the town?
Oh, God.
Oh, no. The last time somebody was killed by a polar bear in Svalbard, it was a freak accident. It was in 2022, I believe. It was somebody who was camping alone, didn't have a polar bear watch. So that was a freak accident. But before then, it's very, very rare that there is a polar bear attack. And most of the times there is a polar bear attack is because somebody doesn't know really what they're doing. They don't have a rifle with them. They don't have a good polar bear watch system set up. So that is something that was very helpful. One of the, when we were learning about polar bear safety and how we do the polar bear guard system, one of the cooks came in, and she has a lot of experience being outside and with polar bears as well. And one of the things she does is if she's not an immediate danger to her life with an encounter with a polar bear, she'll videotape it for educational purposes to send to the UNIS, the University Center, because they have a Arctic Nature Guide program there. And they'll watch the videos to see what you do to scare away a polar bear. So she showed us a lot of those videos, and it was very comforting to see that there are so many different ways that you can scare away a polar bear and not be in like immediate danger, and like the polar bear isn't like immediately starting to attack you. They're just very curious. So just kind of letting them know that humans aren't something you should be curious about. You should just kind of run away. So, but it's
What are some of the things you do to scare a polar bear, just in case we run into one?
yeah. So, I mean, the first thing to know is that your rifle is always your last resort. I mean, we don't want to kill polar bears because if you do kill a polar bear, you immediately go to court for it to determine if it was like you were like rightfully killing the polar bear. So the first thing you do is just like yell or something, or like bang a pan if it's far away. A lot of times it like you just make your presence known, and a lot of times polar bears will just run away if they see a human, because they've kind of learned to be skittish around humans. But there are some that are a lot more bold because they've been around humans or they're younger, especially the males. And so in that case, we have signal pistols with us. They either have like smoke or a loud noise or loud light, and we'll fire off a signal pistol, and most of the time that'll scare the polar bear away. If the signal pistols don't work, we have what we call bean bags, and it's sort of like a rifle. It's kind of like birdshot, and it hurts the polar bear, but it won't kill it. And that most of the time works to scare it away. Or just, making loud, scary noises. And if it's a very last resort, and the polar bear is like actively attacking you, you would use a rifle to shoot the polar bear. But that's the very last resort, and you don't want to get to that point. But it rarely ever happens. We have so many measures in place to scare polar bears away, and especially being in bigger groups, polar bears won't usually be that interested in trying to eat somebody.
Yeah, the polar bear attack doesn't sound like a freak accident. If he was camping alone, it sounds like that was.
Well, he was right next to the airport, so that was something polar bears. It was by the water, which makes sense. So a polar bear came across the fjord. Yeah.
There's a sign.
Well, no. The airport is outside of the zone. The airport is outside of the zone. But the polar bear swam across the fjord, and he was alone, and he was a nature guide, but he just wasn't prepared. So it was something that was, it sounds scary, but it was something that really never ever happens.
What other questions are there?
Are there indigenous like Sami people that are living in Svalbard, or is that not part of the places where they still live?
I mean, there might be Sami people who have moved to Svalbard, but there are no indigenous people on Svalbard. It was the first people to discover it were the Dutch in 1651, I believe, but there have never been any indigenous people on Svalbard.
Too far north.
Yeah.
What was your first impression when you got off the plane?
Windy and a little cold. But it was all very overwhelming, to be honest. I was, because I can understand Norwegian, for the most part. I can understand the things I need to know, but I don't, my Norwegian isn't very good when speaking it. So I was really nervous that, I was going to be the only one who didn't speak Norwegian, and, everybody was going to hate me. But so I was very nervous when I walked into the airport and was waiting for all my luggage, and I was like, oh, how do I find the people? But it was, the moment I found people, everybody was very welcoming. And then it was just stunning the moment we got out into the car to be driven to the school, and just like driving through the mountains by the fjord, and everything was, I was like, oh, I'm going to be so happy here. This is the most beautiful place I've ever been.
And everything went smoothly with immigrations in Helsinki?
Oh, God. No. So I went through customs in Helsinki because that was when I got into the Schengen area. I didn't go into Oslo directly. So Svalbard, you don't need a residence permit or a visa to live there. You just move there, and you have to do your address change if you're more than 6 months here. But other than that, you don't need anything. The border guard at Helsinki apparently does not deal with many people going to Svalbard, because I had to spend about 20 minutes explaining to him that no, I did not in fact need a residence permit to be here. And he did not believe me, and I was sort of wondering the entire time, maybe I am an international criminal. So that was a very stressful experience going through the border guard in Helsinki.
Because you need a residence
everything,
permit in the rest of Norway, right?
Yeah, because Svalbard is not part of the Schengen area. The rest of Norway is. So you have to show your passport again when going to Svalbard, even if you are in Norway, even though Svalbard is a part of Norway. So the rules are different from mainland Norway and Svalbard with dealing with how you live. And that's because of a political agreement between Norway and Russia, so that Russians could come and live on and visit Svalbard as well.
What other questions? Your brother clearly really doesn't love you because he's left the room. He could care less what you have to say. But it's past bedtime there for you. It's after 10 o'clock.
I still need to pack.
Uh-oh. Well, maybe we should let you go then unless there are any other questions.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing our
Thank you.
story.
Thank you so much.
I love you, sweetheart.
All right, I love you. Bye.
Bye-bye, Aunt Marlis, Uncle Conrad.